with all of the best intentions in the world, for the past 2,000 years in the church, we have painted pictures and sculpted statues and have all kinds of images of Mary and Joseph that are unreal. We do it for the best reasons. They are with the Lord, and they were very, very proximate instruments of God's plan for salvation. But that's not the way that they lived. And because of that, we can somehow or other put them in like a myth. Like the Christmas story can be turned into a myth. Sort of like not really happened, or happened in a clean way. It didn't. So on this last Sunday of Advent, we are asked to consider, we have in the gospel today, Mary and Elizabeth, her cousin, who was advanced in years, and yet she was to have a child who would be John the Baptist. Mary found out about it at the same time she found out that she was asked if she could be the mother of the Savior, and she said yes. And then the angel told her about Elizabeth, and she didn't think of herself. We're told she made haste to take care of Elizabeth and her needs over the hill country. I was in the Holy Land in an air-conditioned bus, very comfortable in the heat of the summer. And by the time we got from Nazareth to the town Zaire, where the visitation occurred, I was exhausted. Can you imagine a woman pregnant on foot or animal in haste? But she thought of her cousin right away. Now, we might think, because we know the end of the story and we believe in the story, that he rose from the dead and that he is alive. He was born once in time, but he existed forever before that. And since then, he's the Son of the second person of the Blessed Trinity, God. Not a prophet of God, not a healer, not a teacher, not a social worker. He was all of those things, but he is God. So we're dealing with the divine here. And because we can tend to romanticize these two people. And we can tend to think that they knew the end of the story before the story started. Did you know the substance of your story when you started being aware of things? Did you know what it was going to be like on this Christmas in your life back when? No. You neither knew the details, you were somewhat certain of who you were and what you wanted. And so were they. Two young people. They were in love. They were going to get married. They were going to have children. And they were, like everybody else, looking to live happily ever after. Why wouldn't they be? Everybody is that way. And then the angel tells both Mary and Joseph in two separate visions that God would like them to turn their world upside down and inside out because of the child. Unplanned. Got a lot of unplanned. Most of us were unplanned. And all their thoughts just evaporated before what they were going to be and do. And they totally committed themselves to this child who obviously was going to be someone very different because of the way that he was conceived. Now, Joseph had to be a pretty fine man to take her and to take care of this child who wasn't his. Most men would not do that. And they had to go through a little forgiveness with each other about the natural way in which it could easily be understood that a child was coming and he knew that it wasn't his. These are real flesh and blood issues that repeat themselves in many lives all over the world forever. And Mary and Joseph are given to us in the messiness of the uncertainty of their own lives. We put them on both sides of the manger, here and in our homes, although more and more people don't bother to have mangers in their homes. Check to see if your children have any. They probably don't. Doesn't fit the decor. But we hold it here and in our own hearts and minds that these two figures on either side of the manger didn't have the answers. They didn't even have the questions. It was unfolding. And she who was pregnant had to go in the middle of the night to a little town that Joseph his family originally came from. I originally came from Camden. I don't know anybody in Camden right now. And if I go back, what am I looking at? Joseph didn't know anybody. If he knew somebody, he wouldn't be looking for a place to stay. And she was having birth pangs at the time. And everything was rushed. And the stink of the hay was tolerated because it was warm, at least. These were not the circumstances that a young couple looks for the birth of a child. And then strange things happened with shepherds and kings. And then even worse is the fact that an angel said, you got to get out of town. You got to go to another country. Herod is looking to kill him, this child. And they go to the worst place possible, Egypt, the most pagan of countries, with pharaohs and half human and half animal statues. And they had to live in a foreign land like people do today. They're called immigrants. And you and I all came from immigrants. And most of us came through them, or they came not because they wanted to leave everything that was familiar to them. Who would want to leave everything that you knew? Money, poverty. And so they had to be quiet, stay under the monitor for years as a Jewish family, like a lot of people do today here in this country. And they finally are told that they can go back. And Joseph brings them back. And at some point during the 30 years of the quiet life of Nazareth, the routine, Joseph dies. And Mary becomes a single mother. We don't think of her that way. There are plenty of them now, but she was a single mom with an adolescent young man who then had to learn a trade in order to pay the bills in some way. And they did. They muddled through. And they had good times and bad times, like we all do in our families and extended families. At some point, Joseph's and Mary's parents died, like some of our parents have died. And there were weddings to go to, bar mitzvahs. There were routine days. It's very important to remember Jesus and Mary having to truck a bucket full of water 2-3 times a day from the well down in the village. You don't see pictures of that. We should. And the hard work. And then she was wondering what's going to happen. I remember kings and shepherds and angels, and he's still 25 and nothing seems to be happening with him. So she knew an adult child, apparently not knowing what was ahead or what he was going to do. We have families like that, even more so today. Middle 20s, sometimes even 30, not quite sure, and so they stay home. Thank God they have a home. But the anxiety that must have gone through her heart, she knew it was different, but she couldn't, who would put it together the way that it eventually turned out. So, these are two very human saints. And we are very proud of them as Catholics. On a human level, courage, hope, patience, hoping against hope sometimes. But don't we all do that too? Haven't we all done that in some way or other? Don't we know that some people are going through that right now? And that one day it'll be our day, if not a few of them? Because it's life, human life, the human journey. Before Christ entered the world, before he said anything, they were already practicing the faith that he would reveal to us. That God is with us. God was with them. They believed it. I remember once when I was a pastor and I was, stupid me, insisting that children go to Mass. The head of the religious education department of the diocese said, "Father, come on, don't be so serious about this. What would Jesus do?" I said, "Well, sister, I know that Jesus went to the temple every week." "Oh, went to the synagogue every week. But not our children or grandchildren. No, we can't take it too seriously." They did, and they needed to, because of what was asked of them, like you. That's why you're here, because of what's asked of you. Already in the past, handling something now or in the future, we know, as they did, that God is with us, unless we, put him to the side and vaguely remember what Christmas is about, and then wonder why life is so hard, so complicated, and why God gets blamed for everything that doesn't go well. They didn't, and things did not go well. Even when he became a man and went into the public life, controversy and confrontation. Can you imagine Mary watching all this stuff, hearing such terrible things about her son, watching what they did to his body that she gave birth to on the cross? This is real stuff. Like mothers have to bury their children in Philadelphia day after day after day. This is real life. And our God came to tell us, not just by his words, but even before he got here, by his mother and his foster father, "I'm with you." You say, well, what good is that? For the faithful believer, it's good enough. It's good enough. And without it, as some people will say to me, oftentimes in the hospital work that I am, "Father, if I didn't have faith, I don't know what I would do." We are blessed to have faith. You are blessed to encourage it in your own life by constantly coming here and receiving him who went through it all, and then his parents and his extended family went through it all. The circumstances are very different. But what the human heart went through, the Sacred Heart, the Immaculate Heart, the heart of Joseph, many times those hearts beat with anxiety, but never total despair, because they said, God is with us. And they actually did have God with them. And so do we. Here, and in our families that we will celebrate with in a week, the families that are not, members that are not here with us anymore, God is with us. That is Christmas. May God bless you all.